You'll recall from an earlier video that interest income attracts the most tax, capital gains attracts the least tax, and dividend income from Canadian companies typically falls somewhere in the middle. Let's explore why. Let's revisit our friends Joseph and Jackie, who incorporated a new Canadian company called Double J Incorporated. In the first year of business, the company had gross earnings of more than $100,000, paid the applicable corporate income tax, and then had $100,000 remaining after taxes. Let's assume that as directors, Joseph and Jackie decided to pay the $100,000 in net earnings out to the shareholders in the form of dividends. As 50% owners, they would each receive a total of $50,000 in dividends. Now here is the kicker. When they receive the dividend income, it's going to be subject to income tax. You may have noticed that the same income is essentially being taxed twice. When the corporation had earnings, the Canadian government taxed it. Then, when the corporation shared the net earnings with its shareholders by declaring a dividend, the government taxed the dividend as well. To help offset some of this double taxation, dividends from a Canadian corporation qualify for a dividend tax credit. This is why these types of dividends attract less tax than interest income. Now, I need to make a very important distinction here. Take note, I am referring to dividends received from a Canadian corporation. Dividends from a non-Canadian company do not qualify for the dividend tax credit. Instead, they are taxed just like regular interest income. In other words, there is no special tax treatment of foreign dividends. This is logical if you keep in mind that the dividend tax credit is supposed to help offset the double taxation of Canadian dividends by the Canadian government. This doesn't occur with foreign dividends, and therefore, such dividends do not qualify for the dividend tax credit. Calculating the tax on a Canadian dividend involves a four-step process. Fortunately, this isn't a tax course, so you're not going to have to be required to calculate the actual amount of taxes owing. If you're good with the following 5 bullet points, you're in pretty good shape. Interest income attracts the most tax. Capital gain income attracts the least tax. Dividends from Canadian corporations typically fall somewhere in the middle. And dividends from non-Canadian companies do not qualify for the dividend tax credit and therefore are taxed much like interest. Finally, you should know how to calculate the tax that would be owed on interest and capital gains.